baboon. Him and his dancers, yelling, I have no regrets. I do it for the love, the rush, the buzz, the hush. Whatever turns my knees so much to hit the lift. Even if you gotta sift through the shit to get to the twist. The smile high like it's your last line, but you never get another try. Do it right, do it for the ride, for the heat. Oh man.
It's January 12th, and I just wanted you guys to see what the weather was like here in Kansas. It's not the greatest. So I've had plans to go down to the Ouachita Lake in North Arkansas on the 21st, and even that might be in jeopardy because of the weather. So we're going to stay flexible on the back end of making the plans for that. There's a gentleman down there that's going to let me stay on his boat. He's got a houseboat and a cabin cruiser, and we'd like to do 3 or 4 days and nights there doing some research on the north side of the lake. Anyways, with the weather the way it is, we're kind of at a standstill here. So it's given me time to go in and work on a couple of videos about behaviors that I'm kind of excited about. I've been mulling it over since my last trip down to Oklahoma. I think I mentioned it in the part 2 video of that trip down to Oklahoma, where I was talking about structures, the X structure that someone mentioned that they saw in my video there. So I've been thinking a lot about, manipulated wood structures and Bigfoot behavior. So this video is going to be about my thoughts. Hey, I wanted to touch base on a subject that I brought up on a video that I did. I think it was 2 videos ago when I was down in Oklahoma. The video was called Part 2 Sasquatch Roar. It was when I was on that private property where I had to drive through the creeks. Well, there was something that happened while I was, I did some live feeds on that video, and there looked to be like an X structure in the background behind me that someone mentioned. And so I briefly discussed my thoughts on, the X structures and those type of things. But I've been thinking about a lot about that since that happened, since I had that conversation. I've thought about it a lot, and I've entertained the idea and looked on at some videos and things that I'd like to share with everyone. And it actually involves, a lot of the aspects of what's perceived as, Bigfoot's manipulating wood structures, branches, and trees, and things like that. Now, I'm saying that I don't put a whole lot of thought processes into that because of how much room there is for error on our part. And that's just logical. I'm not in the least bit saying that these creatures don't manipulate wood in a way that alerts others or communicates with others or gives them a sign or a signal or a roadmap. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we as researchers and people out in the woods are finding it too easy to turn everything into a Bigfoot manipulation. Uh, and one thing that brought that to my attention was I was recently watching a podcast from someone in Florida, and they were interviewing someone, and this person was like, "Well, I found a tree, with a root ball laying in the fork of a tree." Uh, you know, so imagine a 10-foot uh, sapling or a 10-foot tree that has been broken off and still has a dried up root ball on it, laying in the fork of a tree with the root ball at the top end. And they were having a discussion, oh, Bigfoot, and I found what could be compressions on the ground. You know, and again, a lot of times you can look on the ground and see any indentations or things that if you want it to be impressions, it'll be impressions if that's what you're looking for, or if that's what you need it to be. So here's a combination of a tree stump, or not a stump, but a tree stem, or uh, laying between the fork of a tree with the root ball at the top end. We're talking about in the state of Florida, hurricane winds, hurricanes, tropical storms, tropical winds, and even just regular winds and regular storms. I mean, I live up here in Kansas. I know tornadic winds, straight line winds. And I work outside in construction, so I've had to take off during the day because it's just straight line winds were horrible. Some days. So nature can do all kinds of things when it comes to the manipulation of wood. Uh, a tree can be uprooted. Trees are at varying degrees of degradation as they're decomposing. So some pieces of wood, some trees standing that are dead are much lighter and more frail than the one next to it, even if the one next to it is dead also. There are different degrees of disintegration. So sometimes a wind blowing through can snap off one tree, fling it through the air, and have it land some distance away in the fork of another tree. And somebody walking along, later, and it turns into a fantastic Bigfoot story. I just don't think there's enough. I think, and even the podcast host, there was two gentlemen podcast hosts. They go on and on about how they got integrity and and the truth, and they're after the truth, and they don't ask any questions of the person telling the story. They don't say, "Hey, do you think it's possible that it could be wind blowing this through?" They don't have this discussion at all. It's everything's Bigfoot. It's always Bigfoot. Everything turns into Bigfoot, and that discourages me. Uh, I, because we've got podcasters who claim to be all for the truth, but they're not asking any hard questions about people. They're not asking any hard questions about what they're uncovering, and so that does very little to really get to the truth. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out a few scenarios, and I'm going to show videos about things that we perceive as being Bigfoot manipulations of wood. Now, granted, I'm not talking about maybe bows that have a rock holding it down, things like that. I've actually found something where a small tree was bent over and a rock was holding it down. But even then, I mean, we're talking, this was 15 years ago in the Kiamichis. I'm still not convinced it wasn't a hunter because it wasn't too far off of a trail or too far off of a logging road that I thought, you know what, a hunter could have easily done that to mark, going towards a tree stand or something like that. You never know. When people go out into the woods and they're like, "Oh, there's no way a person would be back there." Well, you're back there. You don't know what other person could be around. And we're talking over a course of time. plenty of hunters, plenty of people out scouting for hunting places. They may maybe use rock stacks, or bend over a tree and mark any potential location for them to come back later and put up a tree stand. You really don't know what people are capable of, or how many people have been there before you, and what they do. So when I see people go out, there's no way that any people would be here. That that that's a paraphrase that people use when they're trying to sell you the idea that a Bigfoot did this, because I'm gonna sell you the idea that, well, people can't be here. But for you to say people can't be there while you're there, there's a little bit of irony there. So we need to take that into consideration. I'm not trying to beat people up. I'm trying to make, I want, I want, I don't want to spend so much of my time having to filter through things like that, that it seems like nobody else, they're glossing over the fact that a lot of these things can be natural. And I'm going to show you some videos and some pictures and some clips of not only, and it's going to be kind of funny. Uh, there's been occasions where deer has been found with another deer head in their racks, where two males battle and one dies, and at some point the other one's head gets wrenched off of its body, and so a deer will be walking around in the woods with another deer's head stuck to his own antlers. That has been seen many times. There's been pictures of it, there's videos of it. So it's happened a lot in the past. So that made me think, not, and I'm not talking about deer scrapes. When a deer scrapes a tree, and you see all the scrapes up and down the tree, I'm talking about just when a deer's walking through the woods and happens to get its antlers caught on something. I mean, what takes place then? It clearly happens. Deers get their antlers caught on branches, and then they will pull them loose. I'm going to show you pictures of deer walking around with branches balanced on their antlers, where they're walking down the trail with a 6 foot, 4, 5, and 6 foot branch hanging off their antlers. And at some point, they slough it off. They brush it off. They get it off in a different location. Now, how many times have you seen Bigfooters go out, find a branch on a trail or something that they had just been on, and they're like, well, this branch didn't come off of any tree in the area. It didn't come off of any tree in the area. So it was a Bigfoot. A Bigfoot laid it across the trail. A Bigfoot is warning me not to come back here, or whatever. They fabricate these fantastic stories over an event that more than likely happened naturally by an animal that we know of. I'm going to show you pictures of a bear dragging a branch around, uh, cubs climbing a tree and breaking over branches, small saplings that just bend over and break. Uh, it happens more often than you think. But because most of us go out with Bigfoot on the brain, we're turning all of these into Bigfoot stories. And that is really muddying research to me. It's just muddying, because it's wasted effort. We're spending so much time wasting our effort chasing these ghost phantom manipulations, that, to what end? To what end is that? How are we moving forward with that? When you're out looking for wood manipulations, it's a slippery slope to me. This is just my opinion. Please, I hope you guys take this as just as information. Uh, for instance, uh, many years ago, well, 5 or 6 years ago, I was involved with a guy in Missouri named Chris. Didn't last very long, because I noticed right off the bat that he was not a researcher. He was not there to research. But I met him in Missouri. We spent a little bit of time together, and man, I'm telling you, he admitted that he's a big podcaster now. So, and he influences a lot of people. So these are the things that I have in my repertoire of what I've seen, what I see in people. But this Chris guy had never done research in his life, didn't know anything about Bigfoot. and immediately jumped into this arena trying to figure out how he could become a YouTuber and you know and get money from people. That he said that he became friends with somebody, a Colorado researcher who who does a lot of wood manipulation videos, and so he went out there to try to. He wanted to do the same thing, you know, the wood manipulation, and he said there's gonna be nothing easier than doing videos about going out in the woods and finding, you know, wood structure things because nobody can dispute it. You can walk around and see a bent branch and turn it into a Bigfoot story. That's the that's what I've seen in people, and I'm so discouraged. I'm discouraged with people that come in just to figure out ways that they can dupe you, and they pick things like that and then move on and, you know, become part of the influencers that influence a lot of people. That that kind of makes me sad, you know. And there's another guy who contacted me years ago. His name is Wayne. I mean, I'm just using first name basis. I'm not telling anybody, but and he's part of a big podcast thing out, you know, in Georgia or Tennessee somewhere. And the first time he ever contacted me was years ago. He had never done any research, and one of the first questions that he asked me is how much could he get away with charging people to take them out camping looking for Bigfoot. That's how he entered this arena. It's very discouraging to me. So at least those two gentlemen, I don't have anything to do with. Uh, yeah. So when it comes back to the tree structures, it's hardly a science when there's so many probable and possible natural explanations for it. I do have an audio of a bluff charge where you can hear something that eventually runs out onto the road. It involved rock clacks and a whistle. So I am 100% convinced that it was a Bigfoot. And then there were some pops, some loud pops where when he was thrashing around in the woods, there was a specific pop where you could tell what it is. He took a branch, and I don't know how big the branch was, but he popped a branch off the trunk of a tree. Uh, because if he would have had his hand extended further out, there would have been bending and splintering of the branch instead of just a pop. So that tells me he put his hand at the trunk and just popped it right off. At least that's how I perceive that. So there is a possibility that these things in a matter of a second can pop off a branch and probably turn it into a swinging club in just a couple of seconds if they want to. So so there's all kinds of things that I have to extrapolate information from what I hear to what I think they're capable of. So I do believe that they are capable of manipulations, and maybe even manipulations that they're trying to put out a sign, but we can't say that they're as smart as they are and then know that they're putting out wood structure signs for us. Like somebody will say, "Oh, they put an X up there telling us to stay out." Why would they communicate with us the same way that they communicate with each other if they're that smart? You know, and why would they choose even to communicate amongst themselves with wood structures that are so easily duplicated by nature? The forest floor is covered with 3 to 6 foot deep of decomposing pieces of wood that have fallen off trees for centuries. And they fall and land in certain ways. The wind blows them in certain ways. Animals walk through and manipulate them in certain ways, bend them, get them caught in antlers, and drag branches around and set them in different places. I'm going to show you some videos that shows that this kind of stuff happens. We shouldn't be turning all that into Bigfoot behavior because it muddies the water. So I'm hoping that you guys take this video and say, you know what, that makes sense. and it doesn't mean that they're not doing it. It's a balance of your efforts. What kind of return are you getting on your efforts? Uh, I mean, like this guy Chris, he wanted to just walk through the woods and turn every video into Bigfoot manipulations because he knew it couldn't be refuted. That's a sad state of affairs. So now we've got all of these different variations of people going in, and I'm not saying that their heart is not in the right place, but because of the dilution of information, everything becomes a Bigfoot has done it. You look for a twist, and you look for this, and you look for that, and and Bigfoots are everywhere, doing manipulations everywhere, according to all of us researchers. And I lump myself in on that. I I have gone through a learning curve myself. So I'm not immune to putting out false information, but the moment I learned that I was wrong, and I don't want to, I don't know how that's going to help anybody if I keep perpetuating something that has a high probability of being done naturally. So let's get into some of these videos so that you can see what I'm talking about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can do your own search through YouTube, looking up deer with their heads caught in branches and things like that. Now, when it comes to uh, deer that have wrenched the head of another deer off of its shoulders, certainly it's been a battle where one dies, and who knows how long they stay attached until maybe the head starts decomposing, and it's a little bit easier to wrench off the body. But still, it happens. It happens to where a deer can pull the head off of another deer, and it's been documented on film. Uh, So I think about a deer walking through the woods and not doing scrapes, but just getting its antlers caught. Let's just say there's a 2 inch sapling growing straight up, and it gets its horns caught or its antlers caught in a 2 inch sapling, a 2 inch diameter sapling, and when it's close to the ground, it can't break the branch. But if it goes up the branch, let's just say it's trying to extricate itself from the tree, the sapling, and it just stands up and goes higher and higher until the the trunk gets thinner and thinner till it can bend it over, and who knows how many twists it might put into it until it gets it, until it frees itself. So there's all kinds of possibilities, even twists. When it comes to a 1 or 2 inch diameter sapling that at 5 or 6 foot has been twisted over and, broken over and twisted, I can see a scenario where that's caught in the branches of or the antlers of a deer, and it stands up, bends it over, breaks it, and twists it a couple times before it extricates its antlers. I'm not saying that that is what's happening. I'm saying it could be some of what's happening. There's a big difference. I know there's people that's going to send me pictures of clearly intelligently manipulated wood structures with rocks clearly holding them down. I'm not saying that that's not happening, and I'm sure I'm going to get inundated with people trying to convince me that what they're finding is Bigfoot, and I agree. You probably can convince me. I don't know if I necessarily need that, because I'm not trying to say that they're not doing that. I'm just trying to say that everybody is taking in all of these natural things and making them Bigfoot things. That's what's muddying the waters. Now, I hope you guys aren't discouraged with me calling out two other uh, researchers, supposed researchers. I say they're fake researchers because I've spent time with them. I'm not just speculating on their behavior. I witnessed it and was a part of it. So that's part of my experiences with the Chris and Wayne guy. So you're going to have to allow me the freedom to be discouraged about the nature of people, because I've seen it. I was involved with a big organization when I first got involved with this, and I just can't believe how deep I got into that organization, and I realized that there was a lot of faking and hoaxing, and that organization actually runs a hoaxing website where they call out hoaxers, and the owner of that place nor his top guy is not on the list, and they should be. So yeah, I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole, but I get discouraged with people, especially when I have experiences with them and I see that their nature is to be deceiving. Please, you guys, understand that I'm not just trying to beat up on them. I'm trying to come to terms with how do I take in information when my experiences so far with a lot of people have been to deceive. And I sometimes struggle with it. So that's why I'm mostly a loner when I do what I do, the research that I do. So bear with me. Go ahead and tell me what you think about this. Am I completely off base? Is there something to it? Is there more natural reasons for these things going on, and we're just not thinking about it? Did I lay out enough plausible probabilities of these naturally occurring events with known animals? So you guys can always leave a comment and let me know, what you think. And I hope you're not too discouraged about just this subject matter and how I seem to be, talking down about others. I'm just trying to get at the truth. So, yeah, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, or you can send me a private message I'm sure some of you will, to send me some pictures and things, and I'm okay with that. Uh, all right, well, thank you.
Have no regrets. Do it for the love, the rush, the buzz, the hush. Whatever tunes your knees the mush, the hit, the lift, even if you gotta sift through the shit to get to the twist. The smile I highlight, it's your very last line. You'll never get another try. Do it loud. Do it for the ride, for the heat.